Football has existed for a longer time than you think. The first set of official rules was created in 1863. Unfortunately, we don't have many filming of that time, so here is the best soccer player in each decade in the last 100 years. 1920s, Dixie Dean. The matches in the 1920s had more goals than today, but Dixie Dean was still a goal-scoring machine. He started his career on the local team Tremor Rovers before moving to Everton in 1925, which was his big leap. Dean was an Everton fan since a boy and didn't waste the opportunity. He became Everton's first shirt 9, and the club hasn't had another prolific striker since. In season 1927-28, Dean scored 60 goals in the league in just 39 games. Their achievements happened almost 100 years ago, but they are still commented to this day. Few players of your day can say the same. 1930s, Joseph Bican. Joseph Bican passed away in 2001, but he made headlines again recently when Cristiano Ronaldo broke his record to become the all-time top goalscorer. It shows just how good Bican was that his record lasted so long. Born in what was then Austria-Hungary in 1913, Bican was one of the world's best players in the 1930s. It's hard to calculate exactly how many goals he scored. Many sources say 759, but FIFA claims 805. Whatever the exact number, Bican was a phenomenon, strong, quick and a natural finisher, capable of scoring all types of goals. Giuseppe Meazza and Matthias Sindelar deserve mention when talking about the 1930s, but Bican's goal tally speaks for itself. 1940s, Stanley Matthews. Stanley Matthews is one of England's greatest players. The Wizard of the Wing was a genius with the ball at his feet. Football was interrupted in the 1940s by the Second World War. Matthews served in the RAF, and the conflict cost him his career from the age of 24 to 30. When football returned in 1946, Matthews vowed to make up for lost time. He was the inspiration behind Stoke's astonishing title run in their first season back. At international level, he dazzled opponents with his skill, balance, and dribbling. Matthews often played on the wing and loved taking defenders on one-on-one. Incredibly, he played professionally until he was 50. Stanley Matthews is a true football legend. 1950s, Alfredo Di Stefano. Don't be fooled by the black and white images. Alfredo Di Stefano was one of the greatest players the world has ever seen. Di Stefano joined Real Madrid in 1953. Without him, Los Blancos would not be the global giants they are today. He was the star player as Madrid won 5 consecutive European Cups between 1956 and 1960. He is often described as a striker, but those positions don't do Di Stefano justice. He was so complete that he could play in defense, midfield and attack all in the same game. Born in Argentina, he played most of his international football for Spain. But when you think of Di Stefano, it's in the white shirt of Real Madrid. Madrid were not a one-man team in the 1950s, but they wouldn't have achieved as much without Alfredo Di Stefano. 1960s, Pelé. Pelé won his first World Cup in 1958 and his third in 1970. He also won the tournament in 1962 but was injured in the second game. In 1966, Brazil were knocked out in the group stage. Despite all this, there is no doubt that Pelé was at his best during the 1960s. The king of Brazilian football is sometimes the butt of jokes today, and there is debate about how many goals he actually scored. However, a genius like Pelé cannot be reduced to numbers. Ask anyone who played with or against him in the 1960s, and they will tell you how brilliant he was. True, some of his goals in the decade came in friendlies, but Pelé Santos were playing against the best teams in Europe, and thanks to him, they usually beat them. Ferenc Puskás was another world-class striker in the 1960s, and Lev Yashin became the first and only goalkeeper to win the Ballon d'Or. Both were great, but not as great as Pelé. 1970s, Johan Cruyff. Was there ever a more stylish player than Johan Cruyff? The Dutch legend was not only elegant off the pitch, but also a star on it, and remains an iconic figure in football to this day. Cruyff was such an intelligent player that he helped pioneer the total football style used by Ajax and the Dutch national team in the 1970s. His goals, creativity, and all-round ability helped Ajax win 3 European Cups that decade, and he shone as the Netherlands reached the 1974 World Cup final. Cruyff won 3 Ballon d'Ors in the 1970s, more than any other player. Even the legendary German duo Franz Beckenbauer and Gerd Müller could not reach Cruyff's level. 1980s, Diego Maradona. You only have to look at the reaction to Diego Maradona's death to understand how much he meant to football fans around the world. Diego played in the 1970s and 1990s, but it was in the 1980s that he was at his best. His most memorable moment came at the 1986 World Cup, when he led Argentina to the title and scored the goal of the century against England. Maradona left Barcelona for Napoli in 1984. It was a risky move, as Napoli had never won Serie A. By the time Diego left, they had already won the title twice. There is no other word to describe him. Maradona was a genius. When he dribbled with the ball, it seemed as if it were glued to his left foot. He scored goals, created plays, and made the players around him improve. With all due respect to Zico, Michel Platini, and Lothar Matthäus, no one came close to Maradona in the 1980s. 1990s, Ronaldo. Ronaldo won the World Cup and scored all 104 goals for Real Madrid in the 2000s, but there was no equal to the phenomenon of the 1990s. It was during this period that he earned his nickname. Ronaldo was arguably the greatest teenage player the game has ever seen. He burst onto the scene by scoring 54 goals in 57 games for PSV. He was even better at Barcelona, combining speed, power, and skill. The Brazilian tore through defenses in his only season at the club. He continued to terrorize opponents at Inter Milan and then led Brazil to the World Cup final in 1998. The decade ended badly for Ronaldo, with a serious knee injury hampering the rest of his career. He could have been even more legendary had he remained healthy, but the 1990s were the peak of R9 at his best. The 2000s, Zinedine Zidane. It's a bit of a surprise that Zinedine Zidane only won 1 Ballon d'Or in 1998 after starring in France's World Cup triumph. Zidane was like a fine wine, he only got better with age. He started the decade with impressive performances at Euro 2000 and added another trophy to his collection. Zidane joined Real Madrid the following year and ended his first season by scoring a stunning volley with his weaker foot in the Champions League final. Not a bad start at the Bernabeu. Madrid probably should have won more titles during the Galacticos era, but Zidane was not to blame for that. He was world-class even at 34. Just look at how he dominated the 2006 World Cup. With Thierry Henry and Ronaldinho to boot, the 2000s belonged to Zinedine Zidane. 2010s, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. How could we separate these two? The rivalry between Messi and Ronaldo defined the 2010s, and it's impossible to choose between them. From 2009 to 2020, Messi and Ronaldo scored over 1,000 goals between them for their clubs. They also won 9 La Liga titles, 6 Champions Leagues and 9 Ballon d'Ors. Ronaldo won Euro 2016 with Portugal, while Messi failed to win the trophy with his country, but the Argentine won 1 more Ballon d'Or than CR7. Messi was the star of Barcelona, and Ronaldo shone with several clubs.